In this episode, we're going to be discussing about something very exciting. It has to do with gold when it comes to the continent of Africa. Gold, precious metals, their pricing or how they are priced on the international market has been going off the chart. And currently, gold, the price of gold is at its highest it's ever been, ever. And it's just blowing hot. All estimates are basically off the chart. And I believe this is great news for many countries in Africa that do produce gold. But the purpose of this video is not about, for me, it's not about the great news. It's a risk I'm seeing. I'm seeing a big red flag coming that many African countries that produce gold may not be prepared for. And that is what this video is all about. So that we can unpack what the risks are and probably share some strategies or recommendations that could be used to mitigate some of these risks. All right, so with that said, let's dive into it. So I have this chart here that shows is an annual chart for gold. An annual, it's basically a 3-year chart. Let me just pull my clicker thing. Right. So basically this is a 3-year chart. So it's a 3-year, so it's for gold, right? And this is priced in US dollars. So as you can see, currently we're in January 2026. The price of gold in January is somewhere around 5,500 US dollars, right? An ounce. Okay. I just want you to keep that number in mind. I know there's a little bit of cooling off. Around this time, some investors are taking profits, so the price may come down slightly, but on average, it's hovering above $5,000. Just put that into perspective. Then I want you to look at another date. Another date here is this: January 1st, 2025. January 1st, 2025. If you trace this line, it means that the price of gold in January was slightly above 2,500. So let's say it's 2,600 or 2,700. Doesn't matter. 2,000. Let's say 700. Right. 2,700. Okay. When you look at how gold has risen between 2,700 USD and 5,500, you are looking at 100%. Actually, a little bit above 100%. Right. A little bit about 100% in 12 months. That is crazy. That means a country whose major export is gold or silver or platinum or any of the metals. At the beginning of the year, let's say or the previous year, the volume they was, let's say, $1 billion. That means in 2025 alone, what used to bring in $1 billion, they are seeing $2 billion, and that's significant. So if they were doing 10 billion, in 12 months, they are now doing the equivalent of 20 billion. That is huge. That is how much it is. However, this is supposed to be good news. And I'm talking about countries that produce gold, like Ghana. Of course, Ghana is a major leader in gold production in Africa. Ghana, Burkina Faso, Mali, Guinea, Zimbabwe, and a host of others, right? A host of others. So as you're going to see, what's happening? And actually, if you want to see that, actually, let me just pull this, right? So based on the commodity, I'm just going on the Africa Insights platform, right, to type in to search by commodity. Okay, so here's our results. We searched by commodity. We typed in gold, and then we searched, and it gives us a graphical view of which countries export gold. So let's go deeper. Some of them are more impactful than others. So when you look at it over here in West Africa alone, Burkina Faso, that's gold. Value approximately about $4 billion. Ghana, major producer. Yeah, and then Ivory Coast, I think Ivory Coast too does some gold. Liberia, they are small players, but at least you can see the countries and actually the detailed breakdown by countries here. Algeria does some gold as well, and this list, right? All right. So back to our chart. So as you can see, from January, where we had 2,700, to this point where it's 5,500, that's 100% rise. To me, that's great news. But the risk I'm seeing is this. What really is fueling this massive rise in metal prices, particularly gold? Before we dive into today's analysis, I want to share something very valuable with you. And that is, if you are finding this Africa Business Intelligence useful, you need to know about our newsletter that goes even deeper. We publish 2 specialized newsletters each week that delivers the market intelligence you can't find anywhere else. On Tuesdays, we send out AI Africa Weekly, your source for African AI investment and innovation intelligence. This covers everything from fintech funding rounds to AI implementations across the continent, plus global AI developments that impact African markets. Then on Thursdays, you will get our markets and investments newsletter, which is focused on infrastructure development, traditional sector investments, and business opportunities across African markets. So think infrastructure projects, private equity deals, and policy changes that create real business opportunities. Both newsletters are completely free, and they are read by investors, corporate executives, and business leaders across Africa and internationally. You can sign up for both newsletters by using the link in the description below, right below. Now let's get right back into our video, into our analysis. What is fueling that? There are a couple of factors, but for me, the overwhelming factor is just one. The coincidence here is that on January 1st, what happened? There was a major event that happened. January 1st, 2025 was that President Trump was inaugurated. And over a 12-month period, anyone can arguably say that he's gotten a lot of things done. Actually, it's even overwhelming. So the things he's done, overwhelming. But the underpinning factor is the way he's implemented some of his policies. Most of the time, he's been unpredictable, right? Unpredictable. So you just don't know just don't know where you stand. Sometimes when you are looking at what he does and how he does it, how he implements certain things. Investors typically do not like that. They like predictable, stable, where policies are very predictable, right? So anytime President Trump shakes the table a little bit with the implementation of his policies, what happens is that investors run into safe havens, or they take their money from wherever they are, maybe be it government bonds or stocks or whatever it is. They take their money and put it into safe assets. And the safest asset on planet Earth is gold. And its associated sisters and brothers like silver and the rest. So they quickly they take their money and put it into gold. And the more they are running into those kind of assets, the pricier the asset becomes. So it's gone on and on and on until you could see the trend. The trend is massive, huge, 100% upswing, huge. So what's happening is that this is the risk I'm seeing. As long as President Trump is in power, I can predict. I'm no trader. I'm no gold trader or metals trader in any way. But this is what I'm seeing. As long as President Trump stays in power, the price of gold is going to keep rising. There may be a little bit sell-offs here and there, little bit here and there, but overall, when you look at the overall trend, the price of metals are going to go up and up and up because you just don't know what you get with President Trump because of his policies. Recently, there was this issue about his battle with European Union and Greenland and the threat to impose tariffs on certain key members of the EU. And look at what that did. It was just $4,500 per ounce of gold. And look at that. After that event, it just shot up by $1,000 just like that. So I'm saying that regardless, over the next couple of years that President Trump is going to be in power, the price of gold is going to shoot up. And that is a good thing for many economies, particularly Ghana. And I'm going to use Ghana predominantly throughout this episode because it's a country I know. I was born in it. I grew up in Ghanaian. But I believe lessons can be drawn from where Ghana is to other nations, so like the Malis, the Burkinas, and the Guinea and Zimbabwe and the rest, who are also precious metal producers. I know the politics are different in those countries, but by and large, the risks I'm seeing is the same. So what's going to happen is that when President Trump leaves power in 3 years' time, what is basically going to happen is that the price of gold is going to tumble down. The price of precious metals they are going to see a drift. They are going to normalize. They may not crash, they may not tumble, but they are going to go down. So for countries like Ghana that has that, like, gold is like over 40% of their annual exports in terms of revenue that they receive from export. Gold has surpassed cocoa and it's number one. Number one. That could become a problem for countries like Ghana in the next couple of years. It possibly could start when the US politicians begin to see that when President Trump becomes, let's say, a lame duck president. That is, he's not going to be re-elected, and it's, let's say, 1 year before elections. Many people who want to run for office are doing their own thing. They are trying to position themselves. He becomes, quote unquote, irrelevant. If that happens, the price of gold is going to go down. So how prepared are we in terms of Ghana? How prepared is the government for the 3 years that gold prices are going to plummet? That is what this video is all about. I feel that the temptation is, oh, wow, it's one of two ways. Oh, wow, we are making a lot of money. In Ghana's terms, Ghana was making like $5 billion a quarter, especially with the institution of the new gold board. That's the centralized purchasing hub for small scale mining, small scale mining outputs. When that happened, revenue started jumping. So they were doing 5 billion. So in rough estimate shows that in Ghana did about $20 billion in gold revenue in the year 2025. 2026, they're on track to blow it off the charts. Looking at the pricing. So what happens in 3 years' time if the price of gold begins to dip? Because the price of cocoa has been going down a little bit, to the point that even countries like Ivory Coast, they have scaled back production a little bit because the world price of cocoa has gone down. A stiff competition also on the market when it comes to cocoa. Other countries in Latin America have started also growing cocoa as well. And then there's even current research going on right now, experimentation, where these big time chocolate manufacturers are coming up with formulations where they wouldn't need cocoa at all. I know it's a little bit far-fetched, but it's coming. There's research papers going on, and there are even some test cases where they are doing bars of chocolate. You look at it as dark brown kind of chocolate, but it's actually not cocoa that was used. So in 3 years' time, when revenues begin to dip, that could become problematic. That could become problematic for the currencies of these countries, particularly Ghana. Today, Ghana's currency is one of the best, if not the best, across Africa. But that could all change if this issue is not managed very, very, very carefully. That is why this video. So I'm looking at it from the point of view of, like, okay, if we are baking it in all this money, the worst thing that could happen, two worst things that could happen, and two extremes are bad, is the money comes in and is just totally mismanaged, or politicians dip their hands into their coffers and go buy houses in Dubai and London and what have you, which we've seen happen across Africa for quite a lot. Or the country just freezes. It gets the money. It's like, wow, this is so good, but I'm so scared of what is going to happen in the future that let's keep this money, or let's keep it safe so that at least 3 years time, if things go south, we can take the money and use it to pay our bills. I think both extremes are bad. Yes, one is worse than the other. The complete squandering of it is worse. But I believe that Ghana stands, of all the countries that produce, Ghana stands the most to benefit if they manage this well. This is the reason why. I believe in all honesty, I believe President Mahama coming to power the second time is, to me, is one of the greatest assets, because I see a man who has been transformed, a man who has experience and knowledge because he's done the job before. Coming to power for the second and having the time to sit down 8 years and reflect, I think he's really matured as a person. And the team that he probably has gathered together to are very, very, very matured and seasoned team. In no argument, the politicians can argue this and that. I don't care about politicians. I just care about something working for the nation. That's it. So when you look at it, and also I could see that possibly maybe with his character or whatever it is, there's a lot of quote unquote, I don't like using that word, but I'm forced to use it here. He's seen a lot of luck, or President Mahama is a lucky president in the sense that he didn't really have to do much to see gold, the biggest commodity, rise double in 12 months. He couldn't have even asked for it. He couldn't have even envisaged it. But to whom much is given, much is going to be required. And I believe also, because his tenure now is more like a legacy tenure, he's not going to stand again. I know people talk about he's standing for a third term. I think it would be a bad idea. So I'm just going to default that he's not going to stand again. He has the next 3 years to build a legacy, etch his name in the history books of Ghana. And if that is going to happen, if he's not very careful and he doesn't manage this resource well, people are going to turn on him very quickly to tarnish his name, because it would be recorded that his presidency saw the largest influx of money coming into the economy, and the country did practically nothing. God forbid. So this is what I'm thinking. I believe the leadership of Ghana must be very bold. They must be very, very bold, very strategic, very smart, very strategic. Everything. To me, the anchor word here is boldness. They must be very bold to use the resources that are coming into the country. And I say it to all the other countries, and I know Burkina Faso is doing a great job, just that their story is a bit different because it's a military dictatorship, right? In quote unquote. Although we all love him, he's doing a great job. But when you look at it, it's not democracy. So President Mahama is the one that I'm saying is going through real democratic dispensation. And in democratic dispensation, you typically have strengths attached to you. You're not, yes, you're the president, but you are not the all in all. It's not like the moment you back, everybody runs away. No. There are rules, there are laws, there's constitution to follow. So you don't have your free will like that. But with all that said, I believe he's been dealt with amazing hands. I believe Ghana is poised. If it's maneuverable, Ghana is poised to become a fantastic nation. So let's go into what some of the key observations in terms of recommendation that I'm seeing that could mitigate this risk, because President Trump definitely is not going to be a president forever. It's not going to be president of the United States forever. So gold is not going to climb forever. It's going to come down. So let's look at it from the standpoint of view. What if the government of Ghana used this as opportunity that within the next 3 years, Ghana is going to be positioned as the most, in terms of opportunity, the country that produces the most opportunity for its citizens. So within the next 3 years, President Mahama is going to look at it and say, look, I'm going to build a Ghana whereby if you are a young person or an adult or a woman or anybody, and you are prepared to put in the work, this country, when you set yourself and you put in the work, your chances of success is going to be brightest across, it's going to be the most brightest across the entire continent of Africa, or at least sub-Saharan Africa. So like sub-Saharan Africa, if you're going to exert yourself and push in Ghana, your chances of breaking through are going to be very high compared to any other country. I believe President Mahama can do that. And let's see how he can do that. He can do that in major ways. I'm looking at it from taking the money that is coming from the gold proceeds and putting it into strategic investments that would position Ghana as the place to do business in Africa. That will position Ghana as the place for the highest rate of youth employment or youth enterprises. And this can be done. I know technocrats are going to come and throw textbooks at me and say and show a billion reasons why it can be done. I'm very pragmatic. I believe this can be done. This is how I look at it as a layperson. I've looked at a couple of data points, but I'm looking at as a layperson how this could pan out. So this could pan out in a series of ways. Let me mention the first one is let's look at anchor industries. We look at strategic industries that have the potential to create exponential job growth in the country. You shouldn't go gung ho on that. Maybe maximum two or three. That's it. No more. Because the time window is small. Because if President Mahama leaves all this money in the bank account and he leaves power, there's a high chance that whoever will replace him will have other priorities to misuse that money. And it's very possible. Money that you didn't struggle to get, chance of misuse is and abuse is going to be very high, because when a new president comes in, sometimes what they come in is that they do things that doesn't not in the interest of the nation, but in the is the interest of their base, their political base. So they do kind of they implement ridiculous policies just so it's able to pay back their base, and not for the general good of the country. But because President Mahama, he cares less, he's going to leave anyway. He can do anything that he feels legacy wise is important to him, and basically he can say to hell with anything else or to anybody else because he's not standing for re-election, right? So let's look at some of the first thing I'll say: anchor industry that can birth verticals that will create enormous jobs. So let's say, and his team will have to decide that. But I'm just throwing things out of as a layperson. So let's look at the agricultural value chain. Agricultural value chain, anything from seedling all the way through the agriculture, and growing of crops and whatever use fertilizers, all the way to storage and agro processing, like canning of foods and all those kind of things. That's the entire value chain. That has the potential to employ a lot of people. The agri value chain. Another area I see is renewable energy. Renewable energy in terms of alternative energy sources like solar and the rest, biogas, biodiesel, all those kind of areas that are renewable energy. And let's break it down. Let's start with the agri value chain. I wouldn't just go and take money and just throw it on those kind. Oh, let's pepper spray it. Let's go and buy this and give to everybody. No, I will look at it from the point of view of let's look for even within those anchor industry. Let's look at the major players. Who are the major players right now? Because they know what they are doing. Major industry players in terms of agriculture. Who are they? Let's say food processing. Let's say seedling production. Let's say large scale plantations. Let's who they are. Government takes a portion of their $20 billion or 50 billion, whatever money that is coming from the gold proceeds, and then begins to strategically invest in these businesses, because most of these businesses access to finance is a major headache for them. So look for businesses that potentially are doing things that are exportable, especially taking advantage of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. So things, let's say if it's tuna canning or any or poultry or whatever, what have you, or soybean, whatever, then the government, not small money. We are talking of big money, say $50 million, $100 million, inject it into strategic businesses so that they grow exponentially, so that they can export massive volumes. Remember, that $20 billion that came from gold, the most important thing is that we don't lose that money. That money, losing it is an abomination. You don't you so the investment said that money is going to be recouped no matter what. So the gift is either it's going to be a convertible debt or convertible note, which is convertible loan. That means the government can loan XY business, say $100 million at, let's say, 1% interest, and say, look, after 5 years, I stand the chance to convert this loan into equity. That's one angle. The other angle is the government is just buying equity stake in those companies straight. Some will agree, some will not agree. Those who will not agree are complete. I mean, I'll consider them that they haven't thought through it very well. They'll be complete morons because they could be knocked out of business by their competitor who takes this kind of money. So it's huge. So that they can retool, buy modern equipment to, if they were producing, let's say 1,000 tons or whatever they were doing every year, they could do 10,000 tons. And that 10,000 tons has ripple effect in terms of jobs. Okay. And the government is not losing any money. The government will have a seat on the board of those kind of companies, so the company cannot misuse that kind of fund. They can't, because the government has seats or multiple seats on the board of directors of those kind of companies. So any major expenditure that is going out, the government must approve it. On top of it, the government can even give them provide them an icing on the cake, that as long as you are taking this, we give you an income tax holiday for, let's say, 3 to 5 years. So for 5 years, you don't pay any income tax. Why? You don't pay income tax until you repay the government all the money. When you repay the government all the money, then at that point you start to pay. So that the government can get their money back faster. That's number one. That could be done in the renewable energy sector. Why? The cost of electricity in Ghana and most African countries very, very high, prohibitively high for industry. When I lived in, when I lived in the US and many other developed countries, you realize that the cost per unit cost of electricity for industry or business is lower than domestic. In Africa, it's the opposite. Domestic is cheaper, business is higher. That kills businesses. And why that kills business is the rule of demand and supply. There is undersupply of electricity in most developing countries, in Ghana inclusive. So the cost is going to be higher, right? Particularly for businesses. So the government can use that kind of money to invest in renewable energy businesses to make Ghana a hub for renewable energy. In that way, there will be small companies or maybe medium-sized companies that could maybe produce solar-powered electricity for homes. And gradually we move domestic people or homes onto this kind of renewable energy grid or private sector driven, maybe an organization that comes, does a reevaluation of your home, places solar panels there with batteries and charges you something below what you are paying the electricity company of Ghana. And you don't get power outages because it's solar. And that gradually offloads the national grid and make the national grid effectively useful for industries. In that way, industries will end up paying lesser because they have access to oversupply of electricity coming from the government's main grid. So that is one area. Then another area, as I'm looking at it, is having all this money coming in. I believe they are certain. Let me just go back to my chart here. So as I go back to my chart here, actually, I believe that logistics or transportation is a major thing that bottles up or locks up entrepreneurship or business across many African countries, and Ghana is no exception. So I believe that traveling from the main hub, which is Accra, you travel, let me just change the color so that it's even more. So you're traveling from Accra to the second largest city, Kumasi. Shouldn't be more than 2 hours. If we can do that, that will unlock so much productivity because there's a lot of business activity that happens between these two hubs. And number two, the other hub is the Accra to the coastal belt, that is Cape Coast, Takrady stretch. These roads must be redone. Major expressways. I know the government has recently come up with a plan to do an ultra modern, like a dual carriage expressway between Accra and Kumasi. I think that's a great, fantastic idea because it will unlock so much of economic possibilities within the country. However, the slow pace of it is kind of a red flag for me because that's what happens. Many African come with beautiful policies, but implementation sometimes poor, or sometimes it never gets implemented. And this is where I believe the president of Ghana and his team must be very bold. If they are not very careful and technocrats come in, they are going to talk them out of it. They are going to second guess themselves and they will not be able to implement it, or it will be too late. The time period to implement it will be too small and they will chicken out of it. But this is a beautiful thing that if they can do, it will unlock massive economic opportunities within the country. Then I'm seeing another possibility. I'm looking at, because when the government does these ultra modern expressways that will take like 2 hours to get to Kumasi, another 2 hours to maybe get to Takrady or Cape Coast, it will cut commute time. Economic activities will just expand massively. However, this is not going to be a sunk cost or it's money that they just threw away because all these roads are going to be tolled, right? They're going to be tolled. So over a period of time, may not be time it may not be 10 years, possibly could be 20 years or 30 years, they will still recoup their money back. The money they used to construct this, tolls alone could pay for this over a period of, let's say, 2 decades. That is possible. So for me, the major thing I'm looking at is that whatever government money that is coming out of gold proceeds should not be wasted. The money should be recoverable at all costs. Waste is an abomination. Now, then we open a third corridor of transportation where the food comes from. Ghana's food comes from the middle belt and the north. But transportation is a major thing, and the transportation also kills the roads very quickly, right? So the roads are terrible. It takes too long to travel anywhere. So what if there's a corridor, right? You see the sea corridor here, right? There's a channel here where there's a ferry system that takes that transport all the way to the north, right? The north central here, and then also to the northeast here, where we are using ferries. How much does it cost? Maybe a little bit of dredging here and there, but we open those kind of corridors for transportation so that when you are going to the north, you go from here all the way, and either you go through this side or you go through that side to the eastern, I think the OT region. You go through that side and you come here. Can you imagine the level of economic activity that will be generated here? The economic activity that could be generated here, they're going to be massive. And also in the coastal regions as well. This year is going to be a major hub for food. And there's even another tributary here from the Kwahu Afram Plains area, where this is a major fertile area for agriculture, especially food. These are the corridors that I'm seeing, right? So the Accra Kumasi, the Accra Cape Coastal Kradi Road, and then a ferry transport system along the Volta Lake. That is one opportunity there. Then when it comes to Metro Accra, I believe Metro Accra, Metro Kumasi, those areas, there's too much congestion. Too much, okay, maybe not too much like Kumasi, but Accra is congested. If a business says you send out a sales team to go do client visits, I don't think many sales teams can do more than 2 stops in a day in Accra. It's impossible because there's gridlock. The system is choked. Not my productivity. You'll be sat in traffic for hours. I pity people who work in Accra. Let's say they are from, let's say, Tema, and they have to commute all the way to Accra to go and work maybe at the government department or whatever it is. Those families are struggling. So what if we had a way that we invest some of this money into mass transit systems, not the buses? The road networks are not mass, they are not enough. So busing they also get stuck in traffic. So what if there's a tram system or a train system that runs inner city train system or inner city tram, like what is being done, I think I saw in Morocco during the AFCON. And then there's also Ethiopia as well. Egypt has it, and all these kind of places has it. Why can't Ghana have that? With all the money that is coming in? Because if they sit down and just wait, that money will be squandered. So let's put that money that's coming from the gold to use now. Yes, I know some projects are being done. The motorway is being done and the rest. But I think we need just bold implementation. Else, in 3 years' time, what's going to happen is that receipts, volume of money that is coming in is going to be small. At that point, businesses too will not have grown. From the economic hardship that will come in is just going to be brutally biting. And the currency is going to suffer, and most people are going to see economic hardship. That's the risk I see coming. So we need to invest now. It's now, not tomorrow. Now, really. Actually, it was yesterday we needed to start investing in things like this, right? So we've talked about anchor industries, 2 or 3 anchor industries that really we can invest in. I see agriculture value chain. I see renewable energy that we can focus on. Then I see all the logistics and transportation hubs. What are we doing? What we're doing is to make Ghana like Estonia, the best place to do business. It's like the best ecosystem for anyone who wants to succeed. Ghana can do that, right? Ghana can do that. Then the next one, but maybe a couple, but I will just stop at this, is fast digitization of public services. This is the only place that we can invest money that will say, okay, this money that we're investing, we're not going to get it back in tangible monetary form. But it's going to pay off in many ways. Think about the entrepreneur that needs to go to get a permit for something, maybe a food and drugs permit or whatever it is. And they will have to submit this paperwork, that paperwork, and that paperwork, and go and sit in government office for hours and hours on end, go through this office and that department, and that is a killer. Can we eliminate all that and look at strategic public services and digitize them end to end so that you don't have to go and see anybody? You don't have to go and that is what I think Estonia has done. Estonia is a small country in Europe. It's part of the European Union, but it attracts so many businesses all over the world. Why? Because they have things going for them. And one of them is that in Estonia, 99% of all government services are fully digitized. You don't have to go and see any government official. Everything is digitized, 99%. Can you imagine that you need a permit to start a school? You submit application online. You don't have to go anywhere to go and now pay bribes to anybody. Nothing. It's digital. The outcomes are predetermined. If you submit your application on Friday in the morning, you get a response back latest within 7 days, whatever it is. But you get that response so that you can spend that time to do your business, not chasing around government offices. Right? So that is a key thing. The next bit is we simplify our tax laws. I mean, our tax laws are in most part outdated and overly complicated. The current administration in Ghana, because the president is not going to be re-elected again, he can take bold moves and simplify the tax code to make it so easy, broaden the scope, but make the whole tax administration very simple and efficient. One of the things that's working for Estonia is Estonia, for instance, any company that reinvest their profits back into their business, they pay zero corporate taxes. Zero. Why? I think it's a brilliant idea. If you are going to put all your profits back into the business, what's going to happen is that your business is going to you're going to hire more people. Employment rate is going to go down. You're going to be able to have the opportunity to pay your employees well. And what happens is that these employees, because they are making income and things, the economy begins to grow. You are paying payroll taxes anyway. They pay VAT anyway. So it's not that you are not getting any taxes at all. It's the corporate tax that can be a noose on the neck on some businesses. That they say, hey, if you are going to grow your business, if that's your vision, then we will support you. So why can't we do things along those lines to simplify the code? Because at the end of the day, Ghana must become the country of opportunity. Like Americans, America, everybody knows that America is the land of opportunity. In African context, I believe Ghana stands at the crossroads of being able to cross into that if we play our cards very, very well. I believe any young person, if this thing is done, 3 years time when gold prices begins to fall, many people will not feel it because the foundation would have been laid for absolute prosperity in Ghana. And I believe this goes for other nations as well. I know Burkina Faso is also reinvesting massively, doing a lot of things. And I believe Africa, in this case, West Africa, and the countries that produce metals, they're going to be the growth rate is going to be off the chart if this investment is done well and managed very, very well. All right. I think we come to the end of this episode, and if this touched you in any way, or if you have ideas to share, in Africa, it's very, very easy to talk about problems and challenges. That's even my little 8-year-old can do that. She can identify problems. We don't want to identify problems. We want solutions. And we want to articulate those solutions in ways that are practicable, in ways that are believable, so that it will inspire hope and confidence in us. That will spur us to take action. I believe that's what I want to do. And we also want decisions that are data backed or data driven, right? That's why this channel is there. So if you are with me on that and you have ideas or similar concepts, let's share. Let's bring our ideas together to promote our nations and our continent. I believe that's going to be significant. Anyways, if you haven't subscribe to our newsletter. I think you are missing out on a lot. We share amazing insights that you wouldn't find anywhere else on this planet. And it comes every Tuesday. Every Tuesday, we're talking about Africa and the impact of AI, artificial intelligence, AI research, investment, latest trends. Then on Thursdays, we talk about the market, investment opportunities, market intelligence, places that you can put your money and the rest. It's phenomenal. So you can sign up. You can sign up with the description below, or you find the QR code on the screen. With that said, thank you so much for watching. I did another video that you can watch that has to do with how we can use innovative ideas to tackle youth unemployment, and that will blow you away. I just want our lawmakers to implement the concepts that I shared. It will blow your mind away. All right, peace. See ya.